Good evening, everyone. So I'm Annagrazia Puglisi. I go by Anna. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a fellow at University of Southampton. I'm an observational astronomer. I work in the field of galaxy formation and evolution. Though spoiler alert, I'm not going to talk about my science tonight, but if you're interested, please, we can chat later. I'm always happy to talk about that. I identify as bisexual. I also have ADHD, though the diagnosis is still on the way. And I also identify as transfeminist, and I think that this is the only thing that makes sense to me if we want to change the system we live in. So I think if someone was going to tell me last year for Pride in STEM Day that I was going to stand here and tell you what I'm doing about increasing inclusivity in astrophysics, I think I would not believe that. And I'm going to tell you the reason why in a minute. So I was born in Sicily, in Messina, in a small town near the sea. I always knew that something was up with me, but I really never questioned my identity. There was not really an environment that was diverse around me 30 years ago in Sicily. I didn't have good representation, positive examples, and sort of a complex personal story. So I really thought that I was head straight and everything, that was okay. Then I moved to Padova in the northeast of Italy at the age of 19 to study astronomy. And this sort of opened up the world for me in many, many reasons. I got to study this beautiful discipline, which is astronomy and astrophysics at the University of Padova. I did all my undergrads there, and then I also got my PhD on galaxy formation evolution over there. And in Padova, well, I got to travel thanks to my studies, moved a lot as well, and I also realized that probably I was lesbian. And so I sort of started my coming out journey in 2014. But I say sort of because I came out only to myself and only to very few close friends. No family knew, and no one at work, most importantly. Then for work, I moved first to Munich as part of my PhD. I did a studentship at the European Southern Observatory. And then I moved to Paris for a postdoc in another research institute there. And every time I moved, I had to reinvent myself, recreate a life, and find new friends. And in no case, people knew about my identity or my relationship. So then eventually moved to Durham in 2019, and that was the only first place where I felt more comfortable in telling something about me and my relationship. So that was okay. Also, in the meantime, between Paris and Durham, I was questioning a lot my identity. Being lesbian wasn't really fitting with me. So, but I didn't know, I didn't have any tools, I didn't know about bisexuality. Then finally I learned about that and that felt right to me. So I started to come out a little bit more within my close environment. And then just to finish up on my career trajectory, then I moved to Southampton only a few months ago for a fellowship, which is going to be a lectureship position. And so I'm here. It seems like I'm staying in the UK for a while. So why do we want to talk about inclusivity and representation in academia? The environment in general plays an important role in shaping our identity and helps us in finding our labels. And the work environment in particular can be particularly crucial, especially in cultures such as the research environment and astronomy. It's one of those examples where we spend a lot of time at work and we move a lot. So this means that we tend to develop certain closeness with our supervisors, our line managers, but also our colleagues. And so work can be our primary source of friends and role models. So if we don't have an inclusive environment, that can be a huge problem. And for me, for example, meeting very few openly queer astronomers was fundamental to increase my sense of safety and helped me to find the courage to find myself and come out to more people at work, but also in personal life. Really, through work, I found much more strength to be outside academia itself. Now, I think that astronomy has the true potential to be inclusive, and there are a few reasons why I say that. First of all, astronomy is inclusive in the way we do our experiments. Sky is our laboratory, and in principle, anyone can access to it if you forget about pollution, for example. But you can just turn up your head and look at the sky, and this is what we do, in some sense. So the scales of our experiments is so large that sometimes we, and actually more than sometimes, we need to connect a very wide community across the world. And for example, you might have heard of the Event Horizon Telescope. Oh, we have amazing telescopes, but not really great laptops to present. Come on, come back. Yes. Okay. So I was just saying about the Event Horizon Telescope, which was an experiment in which astronomers combined the light from 8 radio telescopes across the planet to obtain the first images of a black hole. So we really embed a truly diverse community in principle. And also, as astronomers, know that each band of the electromagnetic spectrum tells us something important about objects in the sky. All the colors are important to us, and they often need to be combined to study the physics of stars and galaxies, as you can see in this picture here, where you see we have a completely different view of the same object if you look at different wavelengths. But do we really need to talk about equality, diversity, and inclusion in astronomy? Well, as many other STEM disciplines, astronomy is really not diverse and is dominated by white, straight, and patriarchal culture. So I'm not really a massive fan of statistics. I don't think that all of our interpretation of reality can be reduced to numbers. And yes, I'm a scientist and I'm saying that. But I think the statistics can help us to get an idea of the situation. So this is the gender demographics from the members of the International Astronomical Union, which is probably the major astronomical organization, non-governmental worldwide. And if you forget for the first age range, between 25 and 30 years old, you can see that most of the majority of the members is made up of men. And women are just a very tiny fraction of the overall members. Also, the other thing that I noticed by looking at this table is that the statistics are purely binary. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions. There might be problems of safety and small numbers here, but I think that this is also something that makes us think in the way the composition of astronomers is perceived. So this situation is not different here in the UK. And according to the Royal Astronomical Society, as for 2016, the number of women that work in astronomy and geophysics is growing, but the numbers are still a small fraction of the overall percentage. And the other worrying thing is that the more you grow up in seniority, the lower the number of women. Now, it's harder to find the statistics specifically on LGBTQIA astronomers, but according again to the Royal Astronomical Society, the overall number of astronomers and geophysicists that identify as queer are consistent, if not even higher than the average that we find in the UK. Although it is not trivial to compare the statistics between those two populations because they are, for example, here only already split in age. It's also interesting to see that the percentage gets higher and higher when we go towards the younger generations. And we have between 80% of students that identify as lesbian or gay and 90% as bisexual. So the question is astronomy LGBTQIA friendly? Well, the short answer is not really. We had a report a few years ago from the Royal Society of Chemistry and the Institute of Physics and the Royal Astronomical Society, which highlighted quite a few things. And the main ones are that there is a general lack of awareness of LGBTQIA+ issues in the workplace. And a significant number of LGBTQIA physical scientists have experienced exclusion, and exclusion exclusionary behavior. And unfortunately, trans people are more affected than cis people. And in general, there is an uneven implementation of policies and practices. The result of this climate is that a lot of people are not fully out at work, as you can see from those statistics here, and they very often consider to leave academia. And in this case, also trans people seem to experience this feeling more often. And all of this makes sense to me, and probably to some of us. But I don't know if I would say it's reassuring, but it kind of fits with all the worries and sense of isolation that I experienced throughout my career and my life. So unfortunately, my story is not unique. The other important key point that was highlighted from that report that I was talking to you about is that scientists are living and working in an international community. And not all cultures are inclusive towards the LGBT community. And this can cause issues, especially when we get to travel or work in other places. And here I want to talk to you about one key example of this EAS 2023. So EAS stands for European Astronomical Society, which is an independent body that connects astronomers throughout Europe. They organize annual conferences, and in 2023, they organized one conference in Krakow, which is in Poland. I don't know how much you know about Poland, but just to summarize, they have a far-right government, and which is quite homophobic. So this was a quite challenging venue for a significant fraction of astronomers, and the organizing committee did not address whatsoever the potential challenges for women and queer astrophysicists. And this got me and other colleagues quite mad. So we could see why it was important to strengthen the links with a community that probably doesn't have the same access to resources and to astrophysics as other European countries, but we're completely baffled by how no one seemed to care about the safety concerns that were associated with this venue. So we decided to take back the power and reframe this event in the way we liked, which is the queer way. So we did what we felt was the most right thing to do, the most constructive approach. So we wanted to be visible and create a community. So we requested a space to organize a session in the context of the bigger conference to discuss about gender balance and LGBTQIA inclusivity in astronomy. So the first good thing was that our session eventually got approved. This is the title of our session, which was held in July earlier this year. And those are also the names of the other co-chair, Eleonora Fiorellino, and the other collaborators that helped us making this real. So it was quite challenging, I must say, to organize this session for a few reasons. So first of all, it was quite difficult to find the community of queer astronomers around me. And the main reason was that I was basically not out, apart from my immediate surroundings. Then we had quite a few financial issues because the conference was expensive and we could not support our invited speakers. So this one made it difficult to invite speakers outside the astronomical research environment and also from more underprivileged settings. So then, of course, we were worried about the safety of our speakers and participants, and it was quite difficult to find the balance between advertisement and overexposure. And finally, the imposter syndrome in particular for me was quite strong. As I said a few times already, I'm not 100% out. I've been living most of the time a straight life. And by the time I started the organization of this, I was in an heterosexual relationship. So I felt like I had no rights to do this. And up to the day of the conference, I used to have these nightmares where no one will show up, or maybe someone in the audience will stand up and shout at me and saying, what are you doing? Why are you talking about inclusivity? You have no right to do this. But thank God, the reality was quite different. Our speakers were very enthusiastic and supportive. And in my preparation for the conference, I started to reach out to people around me, and they found a really loving and understanding community. So that was a really great thing that I got for myself. And then overall, it was a really great moment. To be fair, even the city turned out to be queerer than we were expecting, so that was nice. And then we had a really great turnout. We had 50 people in person, and then about 70 people on Slack engaging remotely, which was great. And we had talks, and both invited and contributed, then a panel discussion in a safe space. And we also tried to give a platform to advertise community activity at various scales and in institutes, but also more larger scales, and promote connection. Now, in the few minutes that I've left, I would like to give a summary of the things that we discussed, trying to not disclose names, but if you're interested, we can chat offline about that. So we discussed personal experiences and intersectionalism between gender identity, non-binarity, race, and neurodiversity. And we learned that differences and marginalizing factors can add up and result in unique types of discrimination. We then discussed motherhood and what kind of problems that can lead to in a setting of highly competition and high pressure environment, such as science and astrophysics. Then we discussed the role of institution and work environment in enhancing inclusivity. We highlighted how LGBTQIA individuals feel that they don't belong, and if their workplace is not nice, then this impacts the productivity and makes it for them harder to succeed. Also, we discussed allyship and activism. We heard a sad story from a group of people who confronted an harasser and was not protected by their institution, which means that we need to choose wisely our big allies, and we need to be careful in that. And finally, we discussed also the importance about public engagement, outreach, and community activities. We had some discussion about LGBT-led initiatives for LGBT people. This is quite important to build visibility of the queer community also outside the academia, and so that we can have a truly diverse future landscape. And this also is quite important, that when the outreach activities are led not in an English-speaking settings, people do speak the local language for maximizing the reach of these initiatives. So there are a few take-home messages that I try to summarize here. Again, yes, I'm nearly done. Come on. Okay, so first of all, that intersectionality is quite an essential tool for interpreting reality, and the discussion around inclusivity and belonging. As minorities, we need to work together and use this intersectionality as a superpower and a source of experience to understand and engage between each other. The positive thing that we learned is that despite the barriers that we have, the community of women LGBTQIA astronomers is present and growing, and there are many students. But there are also many barriers that make us lose a lot of those valuable students along their career. And the other sad thing is that we didn't have a lot of senior scientists, which makes us worry. And it also means that we need loud and visible allies, especially in senior positions, to make sure that those students that we have now, they will receive enough support to succeed and drive systemic change. And also, for the students, we really need to create platform networks and safe space. And just to say, in case you're wondering, we are still getting ready for next year. This is going to happen in Italy, in Padua. And this is going to be another problematic venue, because Italy also has a very homophobic government, and Padua is theater of very sad stories related to queer people. So we proposed again for another session, and we are ready to be there, loud, and fight if needed. But I really wanted to finish on a positive spin, and I wanted to share my tool for resistance and for driving systemic change. So I think that we need to use local networks, such as this amazing one, to fight isolation, find friends and allies, build a community, and get organized. We also need to resist the highly competitive nature of science, STEM in general, and instead share our resources, well practices, tips, and tools. And finally, I think that we need to tell our stories to inspire others and make progress together.